Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Standing Committee on Finance, Operations, and Governance, held today, August 5th, virtually at 4:30 p.m. If I could ask that the clerk would call the roll.
Vice Chair Biancaria.
Here.
Member Johnson.
Here.
Member Roy.
Here.
Chairperson McCullough.
Here. And what I will do, we have one item on the agenda tonight, and it is GB 5-70 to review and approve high school mastery-based grading practices. I would ask first if there is anyone online for public comment to speak.
There is a member watching, but no one with their hand raised.
Okay, so no audience. All right, okay, so then I would ask administration to begin, please.
Well, good evening, and thank you for having us here this evening. Dr. Magdalena Gagnes, who's been leading this project for the past 2 years, is here to speak on behalf of this item from administration. So I'm going to hand it over to Magdalena, and I'm here for additional questions and comments.
Thank you, Dr. Morse. So I wanted to just give you an overview of the journey that we've taken over the last 2 years. And really, this journey really started with us looking at the questions we had about grading and thinking about how we could really just help grade our students accurately and have those grades reflect what the students know, and really to prevent inconsistencies across classrooms, so across classrooms in the same school and then across our schools, and really to help support clear conversations with our students about their academic progress. And so this process launched 2 years ago. The process was teacher-driven and really focused on teacher practices. And so these conversations were happening at the schools in the past. These questions came up with the district. And so we really decided to look at grading a little bit more deeply. We started with a presentation by Dr. Doug Reeves several years ago, and then reading his book on grading, equitable grading. And that really launched our conversation. And after that conversation, we brought together a group of teachers. And those teachers started the process by thinking about their own grading practices, reviewing grading practices across the nation, and then thinking about how they wanted to start to slowly experiment with some of these practices in their classrooms. And so in that first year, we had what we called a science fair. And so really what that was an opportunity for, after that first year of conversations in the district with a consultant that worked with us, that science fair was an opportunity for our teachers to share what happened in their classrooms when they tried some different grading practices. And so we had teachers from across the district. They came together, they showed us the practices, they kind of set up these bulletin boards, and there were members from the team. There was district members, there was principals, there were other members from schools that kind of came together and looked at this first attempt at kind of bringing these grading practices to the classrooms. And really what we wanted to see is in these action research projects, you know, we read all of this material across the nation, but how does this really work for our students in Worcester Public Schools, right? We wanted just to make sure that this was something that we wanted to dive into. And so in year 2, we expanded the group. There were some additional teachers that joined. And during this year, we had a formal share out with staff at each one of the schools where these teachers that had been doing all this work over the course of a year and a half went back to their faculty, formally presented to their faculty, and shared a survey to get feedback from the teachers in each school, and really asked their colleagues how they could help them to bring some of these practices to their classrooms. And so we had teachers from the team that was working together really try to support some colleagues in their classrooms. After that time, that team, that extended team, came together and drafted these grading practices that we've shared with you in the slides. And they continued with some on-site coaching from Allison Apsey that was working with the team over the 2 years. And Allison really established some very close relationships with us. And so went into the classrooms to actually see things in action, worked with principals, worked with the teachers. And after that draft policy was created, we did have a district feedback session to give us feedback on the practices that we were suggesting. So through all of that journey, we really came together with the grading practices that we've shared with you in the slides that you all have. And the plan is to implement these grading practices this year with support and feedback. We're going to have a formal survey in the middle of the year to get some formal feedback from teachers. And then if we need to make adjustments at the end of this year, we can do that. And with the intention that this would be rolled out to middle schools moving forward. The other thing that I just wanted to mention is that this is really important as we move forward. As we no longer have MCAS as a determining factor for graduation, and we have the competency determination, we really want to try to use this grading system to establish consistency in grading across the district. And so that is just a very brief overview, but I just wanted to take just a couple minutes to direct your attention, if you have the slides in front of you, on slide 9. If you want to just take a quick look at that, we have this process that I just shared with you that's highlighted in those slides. And I just want to take a few moments to just go over slide 26 with you. And in slide 26, it really talks about the breakdown of the major and minor assignments. That's
Dr. Ganyas, I don't want to interrupt. Would you mind, is it possible to share the screen with that? That would probably be helpful, especially for people watching as well, just so they understand what you're talking about. I think that would be great.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So here are the, let me just see if I can just make this a little bit bigger for you. This is the breakdown of the major and minor assignments, and teachers will have, they will decide which assignments in their classroom are major assignments, which ones are minor assignments, how many points they're worth. So teachers will still be using our curriculum. We have amazing curriculum maps that our teachers have, and with those curriculum maps, they can really decide what those major and minor assignments are. We've done a little bit of a breakdown here. And part of the reason why we did this breakdown, and I know that this has been shared with you before, but just to share this again, we want to make sure that students don't just have one test per quarter. And then if they don't do well on that test, then, that determines a lot of their grade. We want to make sure that there's a lot of opportunity for students to share what they know, to have different types of major assignments. And so in the major assignments, we have tests, we have projects, and then we have culminating projects and presentations. So an opportunity, we're sharing our vision of a learner. We want our students to be able to present and to share information in multiple ways. And this kind of supports that vision of a learner and highlights that here. And then in our minor assignments, this can vary, but we are sharing, approximately 20 or 30 minor assignments across the quarter. And those can include classwork, homework, quizzes. This can also be a mini test or short presentation. Teachers will still have the autonomy to determine those pieces of the grading. And then, finally, I just wanted to, if I can scroll down, will this let me show you slide 36? Can you see the next slide here?
Yes.
Okay. And so in this, these are just some, just kind of bring this back to where we really want teachers to be involved in this process. We've asked them for feedback. We have some teacher feedback here, and we have teacher feedback across all of our schools. And so we're really focused on having these teacher practices drive this work and reflecting what our students really know, and not including things in grades such as, I'm coming to class late or things like that. And so we just want to establish that consistency. So with that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions or happy to refer back to any of the slides and share any additional information
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Ganyas. And I know I asked several questions in our last meeting, and I just want to reiterate or have us touched on some other points. If you could talk a little bit more about when we talk about the 40 as the grade. So it is my understanding, and if you could clarify or confirm or correct, whatever the correct C is here, that while we are looking at that 40 as the threshold, for a student who actually is participating but maybe struggling, that teachers still have the autonomy to give a 0 for a student that is not showing up, is not doing work, is not participatory in the process. It's not, we're not saying with this policy that you have to give everyone a 40. Could you expound on that a little bit, Dr. Ganyas, please?
Sure. And so absolutely, if there's been multiple attempts made and students are not showing up to a class or not in attendance and have not done any work at all, we can absolutely still give a 0. And so we just want to make sure that that's very clear, that a 0 is still a possibility for a student if they have not done any work. What we're saying with the 40 is that let's say a student does get a 40 for one of the quarters, and then they worked in quarter 2, 3, and 4 to really bring their grade up and do their work, they have more of an opportunity. It doesn't take them from a 0. We're going to average in from a 40 and give that student the opportunity to have a passing grade and to be able to show what they know, even though they may have struggled in quarter 1. And so we're saying that the grade that we would give them for a student that did attempt and did do work, but just was not always successful, the lowest grade would be the 40.
Thank you for clarifying that. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong on this as well, but this is really when we're talking about that mastery of the topic, right? When we're trying to say, not only are we trying to get students to career, college, workforce, whatever their next step is after high school, but this is really trying to make sure that we're talking about the mastery of the learning, mastery of the class, mastery of the topic, and, allowing a student to possibly make up from that 40 if they are struggling, gives them the opportunity to also not throw in the towel. Maybe, you might have a student that says, well, I'm going to get a 0 anyway, so why should I keep trying now? Because there's no way I'm going to get, a passing grade. This would be incentive, but they have to put in the work themselves. This isn't, nobody's going to hand them that beyond that. They have to do that work to get that grade up. The other thing is, you did mention the curriculum mapping, and I'm happy that you mentioned that through administration or to administration. Could you talk a little bit maybe more about how the new curriculum mapping that has come out or is coming out for all of our content area, that this really ties in with the grading policy a little bit more? I think that might be helpful for people to understand that when you're saying, we have expectations that, 5 of these items, it's a test, a project of this, how that ties into the curriculum mapping, Dr. Ganyas?
Sure. So the curriculum maps really give the teacher and the student a very clear path of where they're going. They really break down all of the standards that have to be taught over the course of the year, and really just gives them a timeline to do that, and making sure that all of the standards are covered over the course of the year. We're not just spending, 3 weeks on one content objective because we like it or because, that's something that we want to focus on. It really gives us, for teachers and students, a timeline. It gives us guidance, and it gives them the specific standards and skills associated with those standards that they have to master. And so with this grading, this will give students an opportunity to have more conversations with their teachers and get feedback. So the teachers should be having ongoing feedback conversations with the students, so that if they do not master one of those standards, they're given an opportunity to look at the material again and another opportunity to master it. We really want to make sure that we're supporting all of our students' needs, all of our students with special needs, our multilingual learners, just all the students in our classrooms to be able to master these standards. And we really want to just promote consistent grading and expectations in all classrooms. So all students will know how they're graded in every class, rather than having 7 different classes and 7 different ways of being graded.
Thank you. And I think that's one of the interesting things to make note of, is that we have not had a grading policy in the Worcester Public Schools. And even I believe this member Biancheri, actually, I know it who brought up even the way we have our scale set right now probably needs to be looked at as well. That had been in place for many years probably doesn't really add up. So that is something, we need to be looking at too. So I appreciate you talking about that. Competency determination is so important now that we have to have a means of competency determination, how this ties into it. One of the things I noted on the slide that you showed was one of the teachers' comments about the timely feedback. And I think even from a parent perspective, when we know we're getting more frequent updates about grades or feedback from the educator or feedback even from our own student from what the educator is sharing with them, that helps families at home support their student more as well, because maybe you realize, okay, my child might be having a little bit of difficulty in this class. This is how the teacher is suggesting, they go about being able to, master the content. How do I now help? And when you're getting more timely feedback, that's helpful than waiting towards, the last few weeks of the quarter and all of a sudden you're scrambling to see what can be done to try to boost the grade up, which is important, but also really mastering the content we know is so important. You mentioned a formal survey with feedback midway through the year from the educators. I'd make a motion that we also get student and family feedback if possible on that, if there's a way to do that. And I just, again, I appreciate you're saying that while there is autonomy, it's consistency, right? So it's not taking away autonomy, but it's creating consistency, which is something I think almost every member of this committee has been asking for in different areas for a long time. And, again, I think when we talk about vision of a learner, this is from vision to action, and this is how we're actually putting the steps of our strategic plan and our vision of a learner into place and coming up with policy that drives that and really helps create that consistency and equity. So I do not have any other questions at this time. So I will move next to Vice Chair Biancaria.
Sure. Thank you. Any chance of doing a pilot instead of going across the system?
I think we did do a pilot in terms of sharing some of these practices over the course of this past year. So just to clarify a little bit, so last November, each member of this team took this material back to their staff in each building and gave a formal presentation. They all had the same presentation. They put it together as a team. They shared some of their practices out, and they actually shared slides that are very similar to the slides that you saw, just kind of giving an overview of the journey, why we're doing this, and what are some of the practices that the teachers in the team had tried. They shared this out with their colleagues. They had a teacher survey then in November, and so we all got the feedback and took a look at it and took some of those suggestions from the extended staff back into these guidelines. And then that team of teachers that was on the initial team supported their colleagues to have some of these practices in place in their classrooms. And that was our pilot. That's what we considered our pilot. So that's a great question, and thank you for asking that. And I just wanted to clarify that we did give teachers that opportunity to pilot in their classrooms some of these consistent grading practices.
Okay. How many people on the team? I don't have that in front of me. I apologize.
I will count that number right now. I believe it is 33, 32 or 33.
Okay, so we'll go with 33.
Okay.
So you had 33 That's all right. 33 teachers that participated in this thought process and this, well, I'll call it a program that we want to bring forward. Those 33 teachers were from, each one of them from a different school?
So we had representatives from every one of the schools. There were approximately 3 to 4 teachers per school.
3 to 4 teachers per school. Okay. And you mixed it elementary, middle, and high school, correct?
No, this was just high school teachers.
This was just high school teachers.
Yes.
But this program will affect every student or just high school students?
For this year moving forward, the first year of implementation is high school. What we're hoping is to then implement it next school year for middle school.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm asking these questions because who's ever listening or ever hearing
Sure.
understands that it's not across the board. So I'm looking at if there's drawbacks and I guess nothing goes, smoothly. We'd like to think it does, but it doesn't always. So if there's drawbacks and there's questions and we're finding that there's some struggles with this and some back and forth, it will affect our high school kids, correct?
So yes, correct. But what we're hoping to do is have just consistent feedback with our teachers throughout this year. Our coaches will be supporting, they'll be trained, they'll be supporting the teachers in their schools. We're hoping to have constant communication through the coaches. We're going to plan a formal survey with teachers mid-year, and Chair McCullough just shared her thoughts on having a student and family survey. We can add that as well. And then at the end of the school year, we'll take all this feedback and we'll review the suggestions. And if we need to make some adjustments, we can absolutely do that. This isn't something that we're saying is perfect or set in stone, but it is a very strong starting place to really put these grading practices in place for our students. Just to, again, going back to that, I keep saying consistency, but I do think that that is the strongest point of these practices, just having that consistency and students really knowing how they'll be graded in their classrooms.
And then I have a couple of other questions. One of them being, people have approached me and said that their concern would be that what other schools across the country are using this procedure.
We have a list.
Do we have a number? I mean, I don't need to know locations. I'm just asking, are there other schools across the country that are using this?
Yes, there are. There are multiple, and we did share in one of the communications. Let's see if I can find that for you right now, so I can read that off. Let's see.
Magdalena, would you like me to take that, or did you find it?
Sure. No, I found it, but
Go ahead.
I'm just going to read off the list, and then we can answer any other additional questions. So it's Boston, Concord, Carlisle, and those are in Massachusetts. Lincoln, Sudbury in Massachusetts, Needham, Newton, Shrewsbury, Wayland, Wellesley, Weston, Westwood. And then across the country, some of the other ones were Frederick County, Virginia, Greenwich, Connecticut, Washoe County, Nevada, Palo Alto, California, Ocala, Florida. So those, I'm sure that there are others, but those are the other districts that.
Okay. All right. And when you look at this, ultimately we have students that will be going to work, taking care of their families. They have other obligations. They may go to school in the evening to further their education and so have that opportunity. Does this affect, or what effect will this have on college applications for our students? And the reason I'm asking that is years ago, there was some playing around with marks and so on. And what occurred was, unfortunately, kids that had, dreamed of going to a particular school, their first choices didn't choose them because of the marking situation. So I just want to make sure that when we do this, and we're doing it for high school students, we're not affecting the seniors of 2026 with something that is going to be detrimental to their application for college?
Thank you for the question. I do think that this is not going to have a negative effect on our students. If anything, it'll be very clear to them what their grades are in their classes. And if they do see that they are not understanding and mastering all of the standards, they'll have that opportunity to have that feedback conversation with their teacher and to be able to submit their work and show mastery of that standard to their teacher in multiple ways. So I do not see this as having a negative effect. I do see it as being very positive and establishing clarity for the students.
Okay. And then lastly, when we do look at this and approach it, it appears to me that a lot of the communication is going to have to be in the teacher's lap. And we're not looking at there are not a tremendous amount of students that walk up and say, I'm having trouble with my grade here. Let's face it, that's not what occurs. It's usually the opposite. So we're entrusting our teachers to approach our kids and say, this is what's going on. This is your opportunity to do something a little different. You know, take a look at this, put your effort into it. And we need to have our teachers on board. So who's going to oversee that communication is being had? How do we do that? Are we looking at marks in the first term? The operational part of it to say the communication is there. Because regardless, we're going to have some students that fail, that need to work on certain subjects. I just want to ensure that we have a line of communication that is, we have someone ensuring that that is occurring. So our students are not looking at this like, well, the teacher hasn't said anything to me and then the teacher doesn't say anything. Who and how are we going to ensure that the kids know that this is happening?
I think it's
available to them.
Thank you. I think it's going to be an ongoing piece of communication and partnership. And I don't think it's going to fall on one group of people to look at all the grades. We're going to have teachers have these conversations with their students. We are going to ask our department heads to work with their teachers. Our coaches and principals will be working within their schools and supporting their teachers. And then at the district level, our executive directors are in constant communication with their principals, and we're always looking at grades and student performance. So we'll continue to do that. And our district leadership is in constant communication with principals, and we'll be having those conversations. So I don't think it's one person that will be looking at grades. I think it's going to be multiple levels. And it's going to be strengthened partnerships between teachers and students with those feedback conversations to just let them know this is where you are in mastering the standard, this is what more you need to do, and these are the supports that are available.
Thank you for your responses and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Johnson and then Member Roy with any questions?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair to administration, thanks, Dr. Gagne, for this report. I know we were here a few weeks or so ago. I think we had tons of questions then, and then we received a report back at the regular session with a detailed report on, I believe, a lot of the questions that we had during the subcommittee during that time. So I got a lot of my answers then. I actually just want to make two motions here. Before we move forward, the first motion is that we get a report regarding how this is going and get some feedback from each school, each high school. I would prefer to have different perspectives and with different subjects involved in this report that comes back. If we could have some of the teachers come in and speak to us at a regular session meeting, that would be good. As we know, every rollout isn't perfect, so I would hope that some of the hiccups or barriers that we may be having to this is also represented during that feedback, so we could tighten up on some things that need to be tightened up on, especially if we're going to be looking to move this forward in our middle schools the following year. The other part of that report is kind of what the process is going to be in regards to rolling this out in the middle schools, the trainings that's going to go on, and preparing our middle school teachers to also do this if this were to pass. So that would be it's one motion, but I guess there's a couple things in there that I'm asking for. So that would be my motion moving forward. And I think it would be good if we could get this by like February or so. So then if we need to get this back over to FOG for further deliberation and conversation to kind of work things out as we're moving forward, if we're going to roll this out in the middle school, that we could do that and get it back to the full school committee before the end of the school year. So that would be my motion. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Member Roy?
Yes, I have a few questions. So, going back to what Member Biancaria asked, this kind of ties in because grades of the primary elements for college, admissions, scholarships, financial aid, etc. I'm wondering if with the new grading policy, how it will be used, how can we determine that it's used consistently throughout the district? And how will these practices be taught to staff and assessed for their use and effectiveness?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, we're going to use our online grading system to support teachers with on the back end. I'm not sure how they're going to do that, but they are going to do it to help teachers determine, they can quickly put in, this is a major assignment, this is a minor assignment, and this is how many points I would like to make it worth. And so our grading system will support the teachers in accurately and consistently putting this grading practice in place. And so they will be supported in multiple ways and on multiple levels. And they will be supported through their coaches, and their coaches have had this initial training just to review if this passes, how they would support teachers. Our principals have been included in these conversations, and we will continue ongoing training throughout the fall and really ask teachers for what they need also, and we can adjust training as needed as we move forward.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. The other thing I had was with standard-based grading, will the students also be receiving interventions for improvement, and what interventions will be provided? Like if they need extra help, will there be opportunities after school? Maybe after class, or like what is the game plan for improvements?
They will absolutely be receiving supports and interventions, just as they always have. There's opportunities during the school day for students to get support. There's opportunities after school. Teachers stay after school multiple times, at least once a week through their contract. So whatever supports they need, they will be able to stay after school. And if there's any additional supports that they need, their teachers will offer any support that they need as they do now. Our multilingual students, our special ed students, any other student that needs that support will continue to get that.
Very good. So I'm assuming there'll be a development day for all teachers in every high school that will, so everybody's on the same page before school starts? Will there be a development day training for all of this? And I know you said a mid-year survey, but say you have people who they say this is great or it's not working the first semester. Will you be open to hearing those comments?
Yes, absolutely. We will be taking ongoing feedback. We're really going to use this time to put the practices in place, to ask the teachers to just give it a real try in their classrooms, have our students have the opportunity to learn about the major and minor assignments and those opportunities for feedback. And we'll be taking ongoing feedback from the teachers. They can share that with us directly, but we highly recommend that they share their feedback with their coaches and with their principals so that they can, each school the supports that they need for the teachers to best support the teachers in each school.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation and thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was just trying to get myself off of mute there. Thank you so much. At this time, I would ask that based on the motion to approve and then Member Johnson's motion surrounding the feedback and information from individual schools, as well as the other component of his motion, that we do the roll call to take a vote to approve to move this to full committee. Madam Clerk?
Vice Chair Biancaria?
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry. That's okay. I just can't, I wanted to put in one motion here.
Sure. Go
I
right ahead.
apologize.
Yeah, no.
I did want to make a motion that we receive as soon as possible what the schedule is for the training for high school staff, what they will be doing and what they will be looking at would also help us as school committee members. So it would be more of a schedule of the training in what sites, and then title of what it would entail. So that's what I would be looking for to ensure that they are on the track of covering each site, covering our teachers, and so on. So that's one of the, I need some reassurance on this, so that would be my motion.
No,
And I also just, okay. And then I just also received a text that there is someone with their hand raised, and it appears to be Martin Benenda.
You can't, we already had public comment. You can't, even if it's a member, the public comment session happened. I do
Okay.
apologize for that, but we did have public comment at the
Nope.
beginning.
That's fine. That's fine. Didn't know, and I just got it now, so I'm not able to reiterate that. I didn't see it earlier. But that would be my motion on that.
All right, so then the motion is for, the motion that Member Johnson made, the motion to approve, or to move forward, approve and move forward to the full committee for discussion, and then Member Biancarri's motion around when the PD is scheduled for and what the PD entails. So those are the motions that we're voting on right now, along with the motion to approve to move forward to the full committee for discussion. So, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, is that good?
Vice Chair Biancaria?
Yes.
Member Johnson?
Yes.
Member Roy?
Yes.
Chairperson McCullough?
Yes. And that is the only item on the agenda tonight. So now this moves forward to a full committee. And that will be at our next meeting on August 14th. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.